You know, there's two things in fishing that really excite me, and it's new techniques and new bodies of water. I'm joined by my good friend Cody Roswick. He's a field marketing manager for Pure Fishing, so he really knows his stuff. And then local guide and legend, Joe Honer. And this guy knows these bodies of water like the back of his hand. They're very new bodies of water, haven't been around for very long, have they, Joe?
Nope.
And very small. When I'm used to fishing big bodies of water, this is a little bit different, but we're gonna be casting crankbaits in heavy cover, something that you just never do. So come along with us and we'll show you the next bite.
Just looking for the next bite, next bite, next bite. Just looking for the next bite. Yes, we
We'll continue to show you the next bite.
South Dakota may not be the first destination that comes to mind for having a lot of options as far as walleye lakes go. But actually, this part of the country, and in particular the northeast part of the state, is populated with many fertile and unique bodies of water.
I gotta admit, I'm not used to pulling up somewhere where there's no docks.
Which is why professional tournament angler Chase Parsons, Pure Fishing marketing manager Cody Roswick, and local guide and tournament angler Joe Honer have made a special trip to one of these pristine and remote South Dakota glacial lakes to test out an evolving technique for casting walleye out of very heavy cover.
We're here in northeast South Dakota. It's a place that a lot of people don't think of as having water, but we have 30, 40 lakes, including tons of sloughs and overgrown duck ponds that have fish in them. These fish are stocked very well by the Game and Fish. They do an incredible job of stocking nice-sized walleyes and keeping the populations up. We can fish in the trees, we can fish bouncers, jigs. There's a lot of shallow water, deep water, rock piles. This is all flooded over farm ground. In some cases we're pulling up barbed wire. I've been guiding out here for 8 years, and it's the best 8 years of my life. The water out here is very fertile because of being the new water that it is. We have a lot of freshwater shrimp. The fish growth rates are sometimes double what they are in other parts of the country, which is a big reason we have such good size and numbers of fish.
You got one, Cody?
Yep.
Joey, you want to get the net for him?
I'm after it.
It's a good one.
Yeah, he's staying down.
Good
It's
one?
a pretty good one, yeah. She's bulldogging me.
Yeah. Oh, that is a good fish, man. Get him, Joe, get him.
There you go, Joe. There we go.
Nice.
Good job.
Oh man, you weren't gonna lose that one. He's got it down.
Atta boy.
Oh, but these fish are healthy, aren't they?
Nice fish. That hook out of there. That
Nice looking fish.
Yeah, it
beautiful
is.
colors.
What a beauty. Good 20-incher, 21. Nice South Dakota walleye, really healthy, beautiful golden fish.
Cody, why don't we get that one back in, huh?
Yep, will do.
There she goes.
Beautiful.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury, #1 on the water. Amsoil, the first in synthetics. Tracker Boats, fish, the finest. Bass Pro Shops, your adventure starts here. Berkeley, catch more fish. Mustad, stay sharp longer. Lowrance, find, navigate, dominate. Motor Guide, never stop. Strike King, #1 in fishing lures. And Power Pole, swift, silent, secure.
You know, when you're fishing on a new body of water, it's always tough to decide what technique I want to fish, and especially where I want to fish on the system. In a system like this, to me, when I come out here, the whole thing looked similar. There is flooded timber all over this system. Now, of course, we're in South Dakota, and one thing that South Dakota has is wind, and a lot of it. It's always windy out here. And what I've done is paid attention to these flooded timber areas, because the flooded timber areas, especially I've fished out here in the past, and I know walleyes like that type of cover. But what I'm looking for is where that wind is blowing into. This system is chocked full of bait. In fact, a lot of the bait in this system is that freshwater shrimp. You can see it all over the graph pretty much no matter where you go. But what the wind does to that bait is it will actually push that bait into the flooded timber. So fish the upwind sides of that cover, because you know the bait's being pushed in there and the walleyes don't have to go anywhere to feed. Basically, what I'm looking for then is the different areas that have some type of structure elements to them. The flooded timber sometimes will come out on a ledge that stays a little bit shallower, and I'm typically looking for those same type of areas that I would be looking for in a normal inland lake or even in a river system. So structure areas on any new body of water that has wind blowing into them is always a great choice for the first few spots that you're gonna wanna look at going to catch some fish.
A consistent wind direction correlating with bait fish location is often something you hear Pete Maina discuss when finding starting areas to explore for muskie fishing. But it's not something you really hear a lot about for walleyes, which is really what makes this South Dakota bite unique. It's all about keeping it simple on the pattern end and putting the focus more in choosing the right gear to pick apart the timber efficiently.
Just right on the edge of the trees too. So right as I was pulling it off.
Good job.
Just make sure you're packing a trolling motor and battery setup that has enough thrust and power management to handle the constant push from the wind.
Got some shoulders to it.
Yeah, it feels all right.
So you can stay out longer safely.
Get him, Joe.
Oh, this is fun, man.
Ooh, good fish.
There we go. All right. Not the longest thing in the world, but a fatty. Man, and they attack it, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It's amazing how they just punch that bait. That fish has got some girth.
Yeah, it does. Tangled up in the net here a little bit. Oh, there we go. We got him.
He just punched it, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it's like they push it forward, you know.
Yep.
They hit it so hard they're pushing
All
it
of a
forward.
sudden, your line just goes slap.
Not real long, but healthy. Man, it hit like an 8-pounder, I'll tell you that much.
Nice.
It is so much fun. Here you go, buddy.
Tough to beat it.
Oh yeah.
Fishing information from real fishing experts. Presented by AMSOIL.
There's something new coming out at Bass Pro Shops this spring for muskie anglers that I'm pretty excited about, and it's the new Muskie Angler Series rods. And the great thing about it, they're stronger and lighter. It's because of a fiber called Technora. It's one of the strongest fibers in the world, which allows that to happen. And again, it's a great combination. You've got aluminum oxide guides. You've got carbide tip on the tip top of this thing. And you've got a new design in the rod with a split handle grip and this rubberized cork handle. It fits the hand great in a real extreme wet, cold weather. It just gives you a better grip on that rod, and that's extremely important when you're doing figure 8s at boat side or just in general. Obviously, you want to have a great grip on that rod. The other thing is you've got a large size range for all the different applications, different actions, and also depending on what type of boat you fish out of. Myself, I like the longer rods. I mainly use the 8-foot to 9-foot, probably 8/6 and 9-foot the most, where you really need to be able to get down close to the water and do those figure 8s without bending over all the way. But you start all the way at 6'6". So if you're fishing out of a smaller boat where you're a lot closer to the water, you're probably going to want a rod like that. You've got this whole range of rods throughout the size range and different actions that you need. And you've also got the trolling rods that work great for planer boards and down rods as well. So this is a great new series of rods that you want to look for at Bass Pro Shops.
Wind and wood are a dangerous combination for casting crankbaits. but there are some pretty good lure options out there to help minimize snags.
You know, there's not many baits that you could cast into heavy cover. What's unique about this Sebile Snagless flat shad, it only has one hook. It's got a 2-hook treble instead of a 3, and you notice it doesn't have a hook on the back. It's got a little feather there, and it allows you to work it through this heavy wood cover that we're fishing. There's quite a few trees, and they come out about 10 to 15 feet. So you'll work this bait through the trees, get to the base of the trees, sink it down to the edge, and then work it back towards the boat. And in a lot of cases, you can cast parallel to the deep trees. Being it's a sinking bait, you can work it right along the edge of those trees, and that's where these walleyes are hanging out.
Although overall, the Sebile flat shads are doing a nice job of not getting hung up in the dense cover, it doesn't mean the walleyes won't continue to do their very best to break your line off by making desperate runs for the trees after being hooked.
My puller
Wrapped in a tree?
went in the tree. See him?
There it is, yeah,
See
there
him?
it is.
There he is. The beauty of fireline there.
That's cool.
So, in addition to lures and experience, using the right rod and line combination for this
I
situation
threw it down and let it go down to the 12 feet of water and drug it right down.
Okay,
along
you
the edge
counted
of
the bait
brake
down
line.
a little ways?
Yes, sir.
can greatly increase your odds when fighting both a fish and the structure it's hiding in.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right on that point.
Right there, came out of that tree, and as soon as I quit reeling, it hit it.
You just paused it.
I just paused the bait and it popped it.
There it comes. There it comes. There we got him.
Got him, Joey?
There's
Good
a nice
job. And he
one.
popped off in the net.
He swam right into the net for you.
Perfect. Another one came right out of the trees.
Yeah, he wanted to get on TV, didn't he?
Sweet darling.
That's a nice
That's a good one.
man.
Another beautiful fish.
Oh, they have beautiful color here, don't they?
Look how golden they are. Even their pectoral fins, all their fins are nice and gold.
They have really good color here.
They do. Beautiful.
Yep. You know, it's absolutely no secret that walleyes and any species of fish like cover. Whether it's weeds, whether it's flooded timber like we have here today, even brush near the bottom. Walleyes like to sit in those covers and wait for the bait fish to come to them. It's an ambush point for them. But the age-old question has always been, how do I fish for those walleyes that are sitting in that cover? It's always really snaggy. You're not sure if you should be pitching jigs or exactly what you should be doing to get to those fish. And this technique that we're doing here today is actually the first time that I've done it, and it's been very eye-opening for me. On the business end of things, we're using this Sebile Snagless flat shad, and it's a bait that's phenomenal. It sinks into these covers, and it doesn't get snagged up much, so you can actually slow roll it through the trees and get those fish to come out of the trees and attack the bait. It just as important is the setup, the equipment that you're going to use other than the bait as well too. And everything I'm using in this technique is gonna be a little bit heavier than what I'm typically using, okay? I'm using 14-pound fire line actually. You know, granted, this bait goes through trees well, but you're gonna get a few snags. And if you go up to a 14-pound test fire line, you can feel everything instantly because it's no stretch, but you can also straighten out hooks of the bait and save a lot of the baits that you're casting into these covers. On top of that, what you're going to want to look for is a nice beefy rod. This is a 7-foot Walleye Angler Signature Series rod from Bass Pro, actually made specifically for casting cranks. And what we have here is a rod that has a very good backbone, okay? You can see if I bend the rod here, a lot of the rod is backbone. So when you get that bite when you're casting this crank, you can get a good hook set into the fish. But we have a fast tip on this rod, a softer tip than typically what I might use in other crankbait casting situations. And that's so when you get that fish, that it comes out of the cover and it attacks that bait, you have a little bit of give when you're fighting that fish to the boat. So the same type of setup I'm using, but everything a little bit heavier, a little bit stronger, and it's allowing us to get those fish out of the cover and into the boat.
Using a no-stretch line is a major factor in increasing feel.
Feels are right, but it hits so far out there, they're kind of hard to tell until they get right by the boat, you know?
Not just for the vibration of the lure to know that it's running correctly underwater, but also for helping to detect bites that can happen at the furthest point in your retrieve.
He's a good one.
Good one,
Yeah.
good one. Good job. All right. That's a fatty.
Oh yeah, healthy.
What's cool about that bait is you typically catch the fish on the outside of the mouth.
Yeah, you do.
You know, that 2-hook treble doesn't get buried so deep.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you just look at the hook, you'd think that you'd miss a lot of bites.
You'd think you would,
but you really don't. I mean, when they hit it, you usually got them. Oh,
there you go.
There we go.
Perfect. Coming right out.
Oh, look at that.
It's a dandy.
Anytime you can cast cranks, I mean, I love it, but this is just a whole different animal. I mean, we're casting cranks into heavy, heavy timber.
Wood, weeds,
something
rock.
that I gotta be honest, I've never done before, because I've always been afraid to. You always lose 100 baits if you want to try to do it.
Yeah.
But the bait gets through.
It's that bait that makes
you catch
can
fish like this just all day long. It's unbelievable. A lot of fun. Oh.
Leading information on tackle and techniques to make you a better fisherman. Presented by Mercury.
A trend lately in walleye fishing is for a lot of anglers to go to an electric steer trolling motor. Now, what do I mean by electric steer? That simply means that there's a little motor up in here that will actually steer the motor back and forth instead of the old cables that used to run these trolling motors. Now, there's some obvious advantages of running an electric steer trolling motor. The first one is you can move all around the boat and actually control this. Whether you move your foot pedal back or you use something like a key fob, you can actually control the boat up from the bow, in the back there if you're trolling, pretty much anywhere you want. Now, when you start looking at electric trolling motors, especially electric steer trolling motors, some things that I look for that are real important for walleye fishing are, first of all, that head's got to still move fast. You don't want it just slowly moving around. You can see on this head, when I go left or right, this thing spins right around just about as fast as a cable drive. So that lets you control the boat real precisely, stay on the little brake that you might want to be on, or if you're like out vertical jigging, keep your lines nice and vertical. So a fast moving head is very, very important. The second thing that I want is a real quiet electric trolling motor. Not only when I push the button here and run the prop, you know, it should be nice and quiet, but the steering motor has to be quiet, as well as the bracketing shouldn't be creaking around. Because the reason you're using an electric trolling motor is to be stealthy, to be quiet, to sneak up on these walleyes. So everything's got to be good and quiet. The last thing that I really need out of a trolling motor, especially for me, is durability. You know, I'm out in rough water an awful lot. I've got to have good solid bracketing. We've actually run this motor quite a bit in really big waves, and the bracketing has held up great. So electric steer trolling motors, great for walleye fishing. Just make sure that they're strong enough, they're quiet enough, they let you be remote, and it'll make you a better fisherman.
South Dakota may be often rugged and windy, but it is a potential stateside paradise if you're looking for remote, beautiful, and often untouched small glacial lakes for walleye fishing.
Feels good, feels good. They all feel good.
I just got bit there too.
And for hitting the water and getting started more quickly, this casting cranks technique is about as straightforward as good walleye fishing can get, keeping things simple, yet very effective in both gear and approach.
Ooh, nice fish.
Yeah.
Good one.
Looks like a bruiser.
Oh, it looks like a pretty good one too.
Come on, big fella.
You let me know when you're ready.
There he is. Take him. Come on, there he is. She is.
Nice
She popped
fish.
up in the net.
Perfect, perfect.
Look how wide that fish is. You knew you were going to get bit there, didn't you?
Can't beat that. It come off in the net. Beautiful fish, nice and
Look how
thick.
wide that
Look
fish
how broad it is. Just a perfect looking fish. And they can bulldog you, boy. They got power.
Of course, one of the biggest things to remember is, as with any system, small water doesn't necessarily mean just small fish either.
There, right
one?
there, yep.
You got one?
Good one?
Oh, this is a good one, this.
Attaboy.
man.
Look at that.
Here,
Yeah, it is staying
Look
down
at
there,
that.
huh?
Especially with such a rich abundance of bait.
Right by the boat, right
It's just
down
hanging
here.
there too, man. That looks like it's heavy.
Nice,
Ooh, that looks like a good
Oh
one.
yeah.
nice fish, nice fish.
All converging factors that blow the lid off this normally highly defensible South Dakota walleye cover.
Oh, look at that thing. Look at that. There we go. Good fish. Yeah.
Nice,
Yes.
nice.
Good job. Yeah.
Nice.
Wow!
Good job, my friend. Big fish, that's a long one.
Joe, what did you do?
I threw deep along the edge here, let it drop down to the bottom, and I just started cranking and she whacked.
Well, you weren't going to lose it. You had it hooked perfectly right in the roof of the mouth here.
Hooked her
Right
perfect.
in the rubber.
Look at that fish, man.
Nice fish. Look at the big eyes on that girl.
Attaboy.
You know what?
All right, beautiful weather, beautiful
Beautiful
guys
weather.
fishing.
Haven't seen a boat all day.
Doesn't get
It
much
seems
better.
like every spot we go to, we're catching them. I gotta say thanks for inviting Cody and I out here, man.
My
This
pleasure,
has been
guys.
a great time. South Dakota Walleyes, baby.
There's one. Holy shnikes. Ooga booga. Yeah, right by the boat, right down there.
Ooga booga.
Booga booga.
Uh-oh. Careful, Roswick.
I like your aggression.
There's one right there.
In legend, Joe Horner. I know.
It's called Technor. It's the strongest fiber in the...
Great beginning.
Yeah, great beginning. Just didn't go anywhere after
The
that.
Next Bite would like to thank guide and tournament angler Joe Honer of Joe Guides You Guide Services for the greater South Dakota Glacial Lakes area. For more information about Joe or his guiding services, please visit joeguidesyou.com or call 320-260-6143.